And senior writer for golfchannel.com and co-host of Morning Drive, Rex Huggard, and co-anchor of CNBC's Squawk Box, Andrew Ross Sorkin. Rex, I'll start with you. Wow. What do you make of what happened? Are you surprised?
I think wow is the perfect way to put it. I think everyone in the golf world was sort of surprised by this, completely off guard, because as you heard in that report, this is a complete 180 by the tour and the leadership. Jay Monahan, Rory McIlroy, they had all been dead set against this league and what it was going to mean for professional golf. And now this opens the door for some sort of merger. We don't know what it's going to look like, but it was certainly a surprising day and a long day for the commissioner.
So Jay Monahan, what was the arc here? What was his journey from one side of this to the other?
In a call yesterday with reporters, he essentially said that they're better together, and he's talking about the two entities, not necessarily being Live Golf, but the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia and the PGA Tour. Now, but if you talk to players and you sort of break this down and you see the arc, as you called it, one, there's an ongoing antitrust lawsuit between the two sides, Live Golf and the PGA Tour. That was going to be a huge drain on the PGA Tour and its resources, and probably something that this agreement put aside. There will be no more litigation between the two. The other half of this is just the straight competition. I think you can make an argument that the PGA Tour product is better right now, but with the funding and the resources of the Public Investment Fund behind Live Golf, 10 years from now, I think the commissioner came to the realization that, as he said, they're better together.
Andrew, clearly the Saudis are on a campaign to try and sort of boost their image in the world of sports. They're buying up football, soccer players. I will get there one day. Soccer players at the rate of knots at the moment, Ronaldo, perhaps even Messi. But, you know, financially, what does this do for the Saudis? And second money question, are they going to pay off those golfers who turned down whatever it was, 700 billion or million or something that one of them turned down? Million? I mean, are they going to pay them off because they walked away from millions of dollars and now they're going to have it anyway? Or
I don't think we know. It clearly, look, the Saudis put PGA in a box. That's what happened here. You could argue strategically, if this was a grand negotiation, they played it just about perfectly. But in that, money talks, and that's clearly what's happened here. There is a big cultural question about that money for the players who turned it down, the Rorys, the Tigers, who turned all that money down, who now potentially, if they don't get paid, are going to have to play side by side with those folks who took the money and were cast aside. So I think that's a big question. And then there's a secondary question as to what does this do for Saudi? I think, again, it puts them in a position, not just an investor. It's very possible this is going to make them a lot of money over time, but also puts them in a pole position. I mean, talk about soft power. That's what sports is across the world. And I would say that there's an even bigger implication about this deal, which is to say this isn't just golf. And, you know, we talked about soccer, but, you know, at some point, all of these leagues are going to turn global, and it's not clear that they're going to be American-made anymore. You know, the PGA was a not-for-profit. The NBA is a not-for-profit. Major League Baseball is a not-for-profit. The NFL is a not-for-profit. What is to say that the Saudis or somebody else aren't going to come along and try to put them in a box and go to a couple of players over time and do something similar? So I think there's going to be a really large sort of culture money question that's going to come up over the next couple of years as these businesses, which they are, they're businesses, go global.
Rex. You got Monahan, who says yesterday, you know, anything I said at the time, I said working on the information that I had at the time. Okay, that's great. Well, last year, he accused the Saudis of killing over 3,000 Americans and being behind September 11th. I'm kind of curious how he squares that, them being murderers and terrorists, with now being great business partners. How does Jay Monahan survive all of this, or is he getting a huge Saudi payout?
I don't know about the Saudi payout, but as I said, yesterday was a long day for the commissioner, and he was asked multiple times. So keep in mind there was an hour-and-a-half meeting with players up at the Canadian Open, and by all accounts, I talked with some players who were in that meeting. It did not go very well. Then it was a 20-minute meeting with the media that I was on. That didn't go well for the commissioner as well, because he was asked these exact same questions, and there is no answer to this. I'll go back to the ongoing litigation that is between Live Golf and the PGA Tour. One of the discovery disputes is in the district court in Washington, D.C., and it focuses on this. The PGA Tour funded a PR firm to dig into the idea that the 9/11 families would be against this Saudi-backed league. They paid for that. So now you're in the awkward position of where you have to justify now you're going to work with them. There is no easy answers, and it's going to haunt him for a while.
All right, GolfChannel.com's Rex Hoggard, thank you so much for coming on this morning. Meanwhile, the Gulf Alliance marks a new opportunity for former President Donald Trump to benefit from his relationship with Saudi Arabia. On his social media website yesterday, Trump called the merger, quote, a big, beautiful, and glamorous deal for the wonderful world of golf. As the New York Times notes, since the establishment of LIV Golf, Mr. Trump and his family have aligned themselves with LIV against the PGA Tour at a time when the golf establishment in the United States and Britain had moved to shut Trump courses out of major professional competitions, a trophy that the Trump family had long sought. LIV soon became the Trump family's ticket back into the rarefied world of global tournaments, with events last year held at 2 Trump courses and a third added to the season schedule. Jonathan Lemire, that right there would give me pause, but then again, I'm not a huge talker in the golf world, but my God.
Yeah, no, Donald Trump cheerleading on here in all caps, as he is wont to do on Truth Social. And there are reasons for this. I mean, as just noted, the PGA Tour had largely frozen out Trump courses. He has a number of golf courses, both here in the United States and overseas. And to not have the ability to host major events really hurt his ability to make money. The LIV tournament, happy to have their events at his courses. And this is the latest in a series of really close connections between Donald Trump and Saudi Arabia. Let's remember, that Trump, as presidents usually make their first trip by tradition, either to Canada or to Mexico. Where did Donald Trump go? Saudi Arabia. He went to Riyadh. That was his very first stop as President of the United States. He defended Saudi Arabia after Jamal Khashoggi was killed. We know that Jared Kushner had very close ties to the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, while Trump was in office. And since then, the Saudis have made a significant investment in Kushner's private business. So there's a lot connecting Trump and Saudi Arabia here. And I'm sure part of the thought here, it's soft power for Saudi Arabia, but it's also thinking, well, if Donald Trump becomes president again, we have once again improved that relationship and we could take advantage of it in a couple of years' time.